Oh, we are live. Welcome to the Insane Asylum. Mark's running late. He'll be in when he gets here. It's Friday, 20th, first show of 2023. Dale Kazmarek was with us. Uh, Hopefully he'll make it back. Oh, it looks like he did. There we go. Welcome back, Dale. We are now live, just so you know.
Sounds good.
We had a guest for tonight, but unfortunately something happened, and they will be here next week. And Steve from Haunted Taxi will be here next Friday night to promote their group and their tours that they have in Kansas City, I believe it is. They bought a house there that's extremely haunted and got a lot of activity, and I was on the phone with them for quite a while, and it sounded very interesting. A place I might even want to go visit. So it was kind of fun. So we'll have to wait and see next Friday, and I'll have more guests for that. After that, we're going back to full force. So hopefully, Mark won't be late this often, but we'll see what happens. So, how have you been, Dale?
Trying to stay warm.
Yeah, been cold down there in Illinois.
It's been a little chilly down here. It's like 32 degrees right now.
Ooh.
But for some reason, it feels a lot colder than 32 degrees. I mean, I poked my head out just on my front porch, which is an enclosed front porch, and I was like freezing my buns off. I go, it feels like it's like 15 or 20 degrees out there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Well, aren't you close to one of the lakes, or not too far away, where you get that wind chill off the lake down there in Illinois?
No, not really. I mean, I'm like 20 some miles, 25 miles away. I mean, as you're driving down towards Lakeshore Drive, on I-55, like in the summertime, suddenly you hit this patch of cooler air. I mean, it's just automatically, you just feel it in the air. Just bam. I mean, it's like almost instantaneous, like walking into a cold spot, like a paranormal or something.
Right.
I mean, it's this one street. I forget what it is, but this one street. It's like a dividing line. And you get that cool lake effect, air. So I'm far enough south and kind of west that I don't get that. And normally this time of the year, it's warmer near the lake, and then it's cooler in the summer. So kind of wish I lived a little closer to the lake this time of the year.
Yeah. Around here it varies. It depends on where you're at. Right now outside it says it's like 25 degrees out there. But you go out there and it feels a little bit colder because I'm in a lot of wide open space, so there's nothing really blocking the wind when it comes through.
Well, see, I'm a warm weather guy myself. I don't like the cold weather.
I don't like it either. I hibernate this time of year.
I mean,
why we don't go out on investigations much.
I'd be happy.
That's why we don't do too many investigations at this point.
About the only thing I do this time of the year is I'll do indoor investigations, like the like private homes, private businesses. I try to do everything pretty much indoors this time of the year. I got a few indoor investigations, private homes coming up here, hopefully at the end of this month, early February, as soon as this one guy gets back to me. It sounds kind of interesting. He's having some experiences. His mother's also, he's living with his mom, and his mom's having experiences there too. Like shadow figures and knocking sounds and,
typical hauntings.
Yeah, typical haunts. But I mean, whenever you have like, visual apparitions, to me, that's always, the next step up, because I mean, most people, when you talk about haunted locations or haunted houses, the first thing people experience is noises, footsteps, sounds, because that's the most prevalent thing. Right. But on the very bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, is that visual apparition. that's something that most people don't experience. They'll experience the sounds, the cold spots, the smells, the touching, stuff like that. But the visual apparition is something that it takes it to a new level. There's energy there.
Yeah, that I haven't seen an apparition in the 2 private houses that we've done yet, but the rest of it, the orbs, the noises, the they've they've experienced things like being opened when they were closed, and they come back to the room and it's open, but nobody was there. Those normal unexplained phenomenon, that can't be explained, taking a picture and having smoke appear, and then we go to the shed, and then, of course, there was a fire at one time in that shed, so it was kinda weird, different things like that, but not an apparition at a house yet or at any of the places that I know of, that we've been to,
Have you
but
ever seen a ghost or an apparition?
not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We've debunked one. That was one of our first things we ever did as investigators because of how well I knew the area, you know, and, it was the Sanatorium Hill, which is, it's named that for a reason because it's an old TV hospital, but it sits on top of this great big huge hill. When I was growing up, that hill was used for sledding, a lot. Well, it's also an easy way to go from one neighborhood down to the only store that's open 24 hours by cutting right through its property. Somebody caught that and thought that they had an apparition, and I said, "Nope." And we basically recreated that whole thing on our first investigation to a T, you know.
That's good. That's good.
I mean, it like we've learned a lot just by listening to you and watching you and being out on investigations with you. But some of this is like common sense, and common sense dictates you should know your surroundings pretty well before you go out and investigate.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an outdoors investigation because you never know what predator you could run into, you know,
Yeah.
and you need to be prepared for that.
Just like the Bray Road, you don't know if you're going to run across the beast or if you're going to run across some wolves or coyotes or something else out there.
Right, right. Coyotes would be a very common thing to run into out there because they've been growing, their packs or whatever that's called, the number, the population's been growing, where they're actually being seen in some of the bigger cities that they normally weren't seen in before. You know, the wolves, yeah, they would come down maybe that far south. I mean, you do have that whole Kettle Moraine Forest area, which takes up a pretty good portion of the state for them to travel through without being seen too much. A lot of that's dense woods that people don't hike through or can't get through, or there's no houses in some of that area. It's good share of hiding places, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of deer all around that area of Bray Road. So we know there's plenty of things to feed on. You know, the witness down there, they said that they've seen carcasses in such manner that no wolf would have done that, or just things that he can't explain himself. He's seen,
Yeah.
and that leaves that place for a lot more investigations to come. That's one place I definitely do want to get back to.
Well, the thing that really impressed me when I was up there, and some of the pictures that Lee had shown us, one of the pictures that really impressed me the most is when there was snow on the ground and you see these footprints like going through the snow, and all of a sudden they stop.
Right.
And they don't trail off to one side or the other. They just simply stop, like whatever it was,
like whatever it was,
doorway or was transported up in a UFO. I mean, who knows? I mean, it just disappears. And to me, that was very impressive to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, he was. I mean, considering that he didn't buy the land for the purpose of, you know, he had no idea about Bray Road, you know, and the beast before he purchased the land.
Mhm.
You know, his intent was just farming it for the hay,
Yeah,
you know, and then all of a sudden he got smart because he kept seeing all of this stuff, and DNR's giving him the runaround saying, "Oh no, that's impossible. That can't be." And you know, one excuse or another for and their excuses don't even make sense sometimes, you know. Like, is an animal gonna over you know, like, where they make 2 prints, but it looks like 1, how often do you think that occurs? Not as often as you're seeing it on his property,
yeah, yeah.
you know, that would be a rarity for them to make that exact match almost every single time, always, you know, but DNR says that's what it is. You know, of a wolf or a coyote making a double print over their tracks or walking single file. I don't buy it. There'd be some imperfections in those casts and those prints. You know, they'd be off one way or the other, but they're too, you know, doesn't make sense. But yet they don't want to identify the black cat either over in Black Cat Mountain and say that it exists either. Oh no, that's just an overgrown house cat. No, I think that's a black cougar or maybe a panther got out. You know,
Yeah.
oh, black cougar can't exist. Why not? I believe anything's possible.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, there's that condition out there that the opposite of albinoism. You know, it can happen. They say it can't, but why can it? They don't have no explanation of why it can't. It just hasn't been discovered in cougars yet. Well, so there you go. You answered your own question. It hasn't been discovered in cougars yet.
Well,
You
that's
know,
one thing with paranormal that people that study the paranormal, whether it be ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, or whatever, you have to keep an open mind.
mm,
I mean, you have to think that the impossible is possible. And,
exactly. I
if
like
you if
that.
you if you don't and you close the door on that, you might as well just stop researching and get out of the business because, you know, when I started off, I mean, obviously I was starting out in a different fashion. I was trying to prove the existence of life after death through the study and proof that there are ghosts out there. If I could prove that there were ghosts, surviving personalities, then you pretty much say there's life after death. Now, other people might get into it because they had a personal experience or something. But people that study like cryptids or Bigfoot, I mean, they're probably few and far between some of the sightings sometimes because most often they might throw a stone at you or a rock. You'd hear knocks on trees or something to communicate with. But again, you gotta keep an open mind, and that's what I've always done. And that's why I tell people, the worst thing in the paranormal is a closed mind.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I agree 100%. You know, I mean, if I didn't go through what I went through, I might not have had much of an open mind now. But, you know, I've seen and actually experienced some things that I didn't believe were possible. And this goes back to 95 when I had the out of body experience and it was a leukemia thing, you know. I mean, I didn't believe that stuff was possible. You saw it on TV all the time with, like, Ghost, that movie Ghost and stuff like that, you know? Nah, that's not possible. But yet when it happens to you, huh, it sure does open your eyes because I remembered everything in detail, and, you know, at first, you know, my brother's like, "Yeah, you're full of shit," and I said, "No." I said, "They called the cold blue on mom out there because her heart started racing." "Oh, you're just guessing that." And I said, "No, I'm not," you know? And he didn't believe me until I actually gave the doctor's name that showed up there to help my mom, you know, 'cause while I was sitting there and they're using the paddles on me trying to revive me, you know, they're giving her the shot to slow her heart down from racing too fast that she needed, you know? And I was in a different room because she was out in the waiting area. So, it wasn't like I heard it because I was on the table. It's heard it because I was like outside my body because I could see this stuff. But I couldn't go too far because I felt attached, something pulling me back all the time because
Yeah,
I could still hear them in there working on me, with the paddles going clear, you know. And yeah, it was an eye-opening experience, and when they say you get that close to death and stuff like that and have some kind of tragic experience or cancer or something knock you down, you really do actually sit back there and take the time and look back on your life and start reevaluating things,
yeah,
you know, and it really does make a big difference when you have those experiences and stuff. We went to our school. Oh, man, that place. At first, I, walked in there, and I had to turn around and walk back out almost right away because I started feeling sick, you know? And then I had to sit there and, okay, get a control of myself, you know, getting in the right mindset and walk back in there, and it's like, wow, I
yeah.
could that one boiler room was just so active with
Yeah.
all those voices.
Yeah, we've noticed that. I mean, we were there once before too, and that area was active even then. But I think even more so the second time I went there, and you can. I guess the way I kind of look at it, I've been doing this since 1975, and you know I've been into hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of places now, and I guess after a while you just become attuned to that. I mean, you get enough. Uh, well, I guess you experience it so much. I mean, not in a visual way, but just in a sense and you feeling stuff to the point that I'm not psychic. I don't believe I'm a full blown psychic. I think I'm sensitive perhaps because I've been around this stuff so much. But you get the kind of feel when you walk into an area that it's just active. You just know it's going to be a very active area.
It's
And
kind of like developing a sixth sense.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, you do something enough. Yeah, you kind of know what to expect, or you get that feeling like, yeah, there's something here. And it's just you can't explain how that happens, but I understand what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know. Um, because I know sometimes when we walk into a place that this is going to be a complete bust, you know, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way, and other times it really does happen that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go out to a cemetery and you can sit there and do those voice recording sessions, you know, and you can sit there all day long and talk to yourself and not get a thing. You can go back, days or weeks later and you could pick something up.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't schedule itself, that's for sure, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's why skeptics to the field of this parapsychology and ghost hunting and all that, they don't believe it because it doesn't happen to them.
Right.
They want to drag this stuff into a laboratory condition and try to study it under scientific analysis. And ghosts are a very spontaneous thing. You just don't drag them into, to a laboratory to study it, or you can't do something like Ghostbusters and kind of trap them in an electronic field or something. That stuff just doesn't work. I mean, ghosts are spontaneous, and it took me literally, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years before I saw my first ghost. And since that time, I've been seeing a lot of shadow images, and we recorded a lot of things, a lot of full-bodied apparitions. I didn't get a chance to see that full-bodied apparition, but we were able to document it and film it and take pictures and video of it. But shadow images, I mean, that's something I've experienced quite a bit, going all over places that are extremely haunted.
Yeah, and you don't always pick those things up until, like, for example, like, when you get home and you start listening to your recording because you might not actually hear something with the naked ear either,
Right.
you know? For example, like, we all heard that, um, what did you call it? Like a phantom plane when we were out at the crash site, the Buddy Holly
Yeah.
crash site, you know? And none of us that I know of remember hearing or seeing a plane while we were out there that day, and it was a clear day. It was a
Yeah.
pretty nice day that we were out there because people were coming and going all day long. We were out there.
Yeah. It was a very hot day. I remember it was like roasting out there, and but if I would have heard something like that, I mean, I think I would have at least looked up in the sky.
I know I would've,
Yeah.
you know?
And I was amazed that you guys were able to share that with me, because I never would have experienced that. I mean, obviously, it wasn't during the day of the crash site. I mean, that happened, in the
Well,
winter months.
yeah, that would've been cold to be out there in Iowa in the middle of
Yeah.
February, I don't yeah, wasn't it February that happened?
Uh, it was sometime in the deep winter, December, January, February. I'd have to look it up, but I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it was
can't
cold.
remember. I was working on that not too long ago because 'cause I'm still trying to get that footage edited and out there.
Right.
But yeah,
But I
that
mean, and that might have made more sense, maybe, that was like, if you were out there, say, the day of, that there's
right.
been some ghostly reenactment of, say, the crash, a plane coming overhead and sputtering, and then all of a sudden just crashing or just going out of sight. Because that would have made more sense than like in the middle of June or July when we were out there. So
Maybe we
but
triggered something,
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
so.
Mikey was playing the different tunes from the Bopper and Richie Valens and Buddy Holly,
Yeah.
maybe it triggered something to cause the flyover or whatever.
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
I don't
know.
know how many people were actually that would actually come out there and do that. I mean, I'm sure there were people, maybe not this, say, paranormal investigator. People just went out there and wanted to visit the site and just wanted to kind of reminisce, so they would maybe
Play their music?
play
Yeah,
the music. But
right.
like
I
us,
would do that.
doing it like like trigger music, trying to
Right.
elicit a response. And I think we might have just done that because,
Well, we were getting the responses because, we were asking, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the tunes were playing on Mikey's phone, we were like, "Do you know who sung this? Can you tell us who sung this?" And we got answers,
yeah,
and they were the correct ones, because 'cause you'd hear Bopper or, Holly or, Richie.
yeah. I just looked on my phone. It's February 3rd, 1959.
Yeah,
So
and
it would have been
pretty
frigid out there.
yeah,
Frigid.
it was pretty frigid because ice was on the plane
Yeah.
apparently or something, you know? I mean, yeah,
You got
but
to remember when we were out there, there were
well,
cornfields.
yeah. Oh, the
That
the corn was
that was a
just
flat
getting
field.
the corn was just getting ready to be harvested soon. It was hot outside. It was like 80, 90 degrees, no wind. That was a gorgeous day to take
Yeah,
that.
that was something I had looked forward to for the longest time, because I started to do like a pilgrimage of going to different celebrity crash sites all over the country, and I've been to so many of them. Patsy Cline's, and then Cowboy Copus, and the Richie Valens, Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, uh,
That
Jim.
was an honor to go to that one.
Yeah,
Me.
but I'm hoping sometime this year I'm going to get out to see the Leonard Skinner crash site in
I'd
Mississippi.
love to go there. Yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
to go there. Big fan. And then right around here, we still got, let's see, can't remember who it was, from the '50s, crashed into either Lake Monona or Lake Monona, Mendota or Monona and Madison. I think that was Otis Redding.
Okay. Yeah.
And then right around Alpine Valley area, that was
The helicopter crash,
um,
wasn't it?
yeah, and it was damn it, I can't think. I just was talking about this just the other day because we were talking about great guitarists. Um, damn, I can't remember who that was. Yeah, it was a helicopter crash. It crashed into the side of a hill near
Steve,
Alpine. Stevie
Steve,
Ray Vaughan. Yep,
yeah, yeah.
yep,
I,
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I haven't been out to see that yet.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I think it was Otis Redding that went into either Lake Monona or Mendota. So,
And then one day I'm going to get out to Texas. I'm going to get out to see the Jim Croce crash site.
yeah.
So it's, you know, I don't do it in a morbid way, but it's a fascination for me. And it's also, you know, places where people died
But it,
tragically.
but also, if you're like a music fan like that, and they're musicians, it's kind of like a great honor to be there,
Yeah.
especially if you were a fan. You know, and I'm a fan of music. You know, and to go to, just going to that one with it was just an honor just to be there, just to pay your respects, to be able to pay your respects to the crash site to where those three great legends were passed away, you know, and they got taken way too early.
Yeah.
I mean, Richie Valens was just an up and coming star at that time. You
Yeah.
know.
You see, the thing with their music, you know, I mean, I was only 6, 7 years old when that crash went out. So I discovered their music later in life. You know, my sister, she was
So did
born in
I. I
1975.
wasn't even I wasn't even an itching in my daddy's pants when that crash
Yeah,
happened.
but places like obviously Leonard Skinner and Jim Croce and even Otis Redding. I mean, those I really knew. I mean, so they started in what the '60s and '70s. Some of those.
Leonard Skinner
So
is big today.
yeah.
Left of him, you know.
So I kind of grew up with that music more or less, and I mean,
Classic rock.
they used to call that country rock.
Well, and then later it became classic rock.
Yeah, yeah,
Me, I ended up listening. We were got talking about that on a podcast or someplace earlier today. Oh, I was talking to my sister, my cousin's sister. Anyway, she's a cousin, and we grew up so close to each other all of our lives that we were more like brother and sister. But we were talking all this old music and stuff, and it's like, we call that classic rock, and her daughter was like saying, "No, that was heavy metal," and I'm like, "No,
yeah,
AC/DC, Kiss, that was all classic rock, that came out of the '70s and the '80s."
oh yeah, absolutely.
When music was good, really good. Nowadays I listen to more content than anything else, but
Well, that's like when I went to the Patsy Cline crash site. That was Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas, Hawkshaw Hawkins, and Randy Hughes. They all died in that plane crash. And later on, I went to see Jim Reeves. And these are all ones that were very big in the 60s and 70s.
well, I know I recognize the Patsy Cline name, but the others, no clue, you
Yeah,
know. But I was big into music. I mean, my mom used to listen to more music than she did TV. So, and when there was only one TV in the house for a while, we had to listen to whatever mom was listening to. We didn't have much of a choice.
right.
So I grew up on a lot of things. I knew where I was the day Elvis died because I was 10 years old. You know, I'm kind of considered the local Elvis expert, I guess. I've studied his life and everything ever since then because I guess I was baffled or curious or whatever why all those people just around the world started bawling over his death, you know, because, it was like my mom, my aunt, and a couple other of their friends or cousins or relatives. They were all around the kitchen table, and they came over the radio, and they just all started just freaking out and bawling really bad, you know. And I wanted to know what the fascination was with the man, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we lost another big rocker here in the last couple of days, David Crosby.
from Cosby, Stills, and Nash, and
Yeah,
Young.
yeah.
That's
Originally, one of the founding members of the Byrds.
Yeah, they made a song called one of my favorites. It was called Southern Cross,
Oh,
and they only say the title in it once.
yeah. Yeah, they started off with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and then they added Neil Young for a little while.
Yep, and it was
And
Cosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
yeah,
I
and
remember that. And then before that, it was Lisa Marie.
yeah,
Yeah,
I found out something, recently that I did not know until started talking about it on CNN and other news broadcasts when they had that Kent State massacre out in Kent State, Ohio, where those college students were shot by National Guardsmen. Neil Young was a big advocate against that kind of stuff, and he went off into the woods by himself, wrote the song "Ohio," and came back 30 minutes later with the lyrics to that song. Crosby, Stills, and Nash went into that studio that same day and cut that record.
now are you talking now when you're talking, are you talking about back in the like 70s or the 60s when they had all those massacres at all those different colleges? And it
Well,
was like a lot of the government was involved in it.
yeah, well, this was the Kent State, Ohio, where they had,
Penn State was one of those involved.
yeah,
They had, like, so many dead and so many injured, and
yeah,
the only thing alright, I should tell you why I'm asking this. I'm a big fan of a guy that grew up in the Milwaukee area and later became a film producer and later became known as a guy named Billy Jack, okay? And there's 4 movies based
right,
on Billy Jack, and
mhm,
Tom Lofgren plays those plays Billy Jack, and his wife is Dolores Taylor, and together they made these movies. And they're all, people think that I grew up at first, and I was thinking this way. I got to admit, I'm guilty of it too. I thought they were kind of like martial arts films because of the one scene that they promote where he was kicking the guy in the face and so on and so forth.
oh, when he says, "I'm going to take this foot and I'm going to plant it on
And
that,"
on that side of the face, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
and he goes,
Right.
"Whoa," and then bam, and he does that.
Right. So you know
Um,
what I'm talking about. Well, when those
yeah,
movies came out, I was a big, big fan, and one of them, I think it's the second one, talks about all those college shootings that it was like the National Guard and the state police were involved in, and the students, most of them were all unarmed. They were just protesting at
yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Peaceful protesters getting shot all over. And
yeah,
and see, he was getting shut down by the government and stuff um, when he was trying to make those movies.
right,
And if you ever watch the first one, you'll notice somebody that got really famous because of a show called WKRP in Cincinnati. He was in the first movie by the name of Howard Hessman. He was a pot smoking hippie in the first one, but he was
yeah,
part of the school that Dolores Taylor's character was running. I got all of those movies. It's just
yeah.
too
I
bad he
mean,
passed away before I got a chance to meet him.
I
He was
remember
like
watching them all. They were all great movies. I mean, wasn't one of the theme songs from one of the Billy Jack? Wasn't that One Tin Soldier?
Unseen Soldier.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it was. That I have all those movies on DVD, and I have a special DVD that was never released with the rest of them that I got my hands on.
cool, cool.
So it's got a lot of private interviews with Tom. And yeah, he was kind of my hero growing up when I saw that first one.
Wasn't the
You know,
whole premise of the first one that he was actually a Native American himself,
he was a half breed.
half breed, and that he was in there because he was involved because they were taking away lands from Native
He was
American
he was
Indians.
there to protect the school and
Yeah,
the Native Americans that were there, so that they didn't lose their rights, and he was there fighting for them so that they didn't take away their land. And because of the segregations in some of those towns, oh, you're not allowed to, you can't come in here. We don't serve your kind, that kind of thing. He was there to protect them. He was their protector, their guardian angel, and so to speak. He was also um, in Vietnam as like special forces,
yeah.
and he turned on. They say he turned on his country. I say he did the right thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they showed that one scene where they railed all these people, and it was all women and children and old men into this ditch, and then they just killed them all, mass murdered them all, and they were harmless.
Oh yeah, I
But
know.
this was supposedly during the Vietnam War. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't old enough. But you know, this Tom Loffigan, and I hope I pronounce his name right, because God forbid somebody gets on me for pronouncing it wrong. Um, I'm sure he did a lot of his research, because he didn't like the fact that some of those people were kept referring to his movies as martial art movies when they were more of a kind of a protest type thing, kind of like whistleblower type movies. Because he did one where Billy Jack goes to Washington to show you all the evil, underhanded things that go on behind closed doors. The deals that get made. Things that the public doesn't know about, how they stole Indian land, that kind of stuff, by using loopholes in the law, you know.
Well, they were doing that from the very beginning when they started to move further and further west, and they just kind of pushed Indians,
Right.
the Trail of Tears, to push them onto reservations, and trying to take the Black Hills away from Geronimo and others, those sacred Black Hills and everything. You got Wounded Knee, that massacre, that protest and massacred Wounded Knee, where Indians got shot up there, and yeah, it
And
just,
it's too bad all that happened, because, we could have learned a lot more from them,
yeah,
you know. How much, I mean, just look at the way this world has turned out. We, as a people, and I'm talking every race that's out here that's not Native American, okay, waste a lot of crap.
yeah,
They kill a buffalo, nothing goes to waste. They use everything,
yeah.
you know, for something useful, and they only know what they need. We could have learned a lot, you know.
Well, I mean, the Indians, they are the true Americans.
Right.
I mean, they
They
were
are.
born right here in
There's
this country.
That's right. There's no denying that, you know.
I mean, everybody
And
else has
we're
their
the
roots
true foreigners.
elsewhere.
We're the true foreigners.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 96% Polish, so you know where I came from.
Well, my
From
grandpa
Estonian and Latvian. I mean, I was a Eastern European.
my grandpa wasn't even born here. My grandpa was born in Italy,
Yeah.
you know.
So
So,
was my grandfather. My grandfather on both sides of the family was born in Poland.
so yes. So, you can go back, a couple generations, and they weren't even born here in the United States.
Yeah.
You know, technically, I'm the second generation of this family born in the United States. My father's generation was the first,
Yeah. Same with me.
you know. So it goes to show you, you're right. I mean, you can't argue that. It's pure fact. They were here long before us. And what do? We pretty much destroy it. I mean, look at this.
Destroy it and destroy them.
Yeah. I mean, I used to love going to the Wisconsin Dells, you know, and my wife and I went there last year. We took a trip because we needed to get out for a day or two. So we decided to take a trip to the Dells. And for those that don't know, it's pretty much a tourist trap in Wisconsin. But back when I was a kid, it was a lot different. It was called Fort Dells, and the Native Americans in that area pretty much ran most of the Dells at the time. You had things going on at a place called Ceremonial Rock and Standing Rock. Um, you had actual real Native American trading posts. They called them Indian trading posts. But all of that stuff in there didn't have a sticker on it saying made in China or made in Taiwan or something. It said made by this tribe or that tribe,
Right.
because there was a lot of, you know, different tribes in that part of Wisconsin back in their day. So they ran the Dells back when I was a kid. They owned most of the shops, most of the businesses, and now it's like this one place up there that's got one of the biggest amusement parks up there is buying up all the small hotels and everything and trying to own the hotels and turn it into one big tourist trap just for money. And it's sad. Kids will never know, people will never know what it was really like, you know.
Well, a lot of those Indians got a lot of those casinos up there on Indian land.
Yeah. Ho
You
Chunk.
know, the Ho Chunk, the Potawatomi, and many others.
Ho Chunk's one of the biggest. It's
Yeah,
up in the Dells, right
yeah,
up in the
I've been to
Dells
them
area.
both. Yeah,
Ho Chunk also owns the one in the Madison area too.
yeah. I remember when I was a little sprout, maybe 6 years old. My parents took me out, the whole family out to visit to the west. So we went out to like the Badlands. We went out
Oh,
to
that was kind of cool.
the Garden of the Gods and Mount Rushmore, and a lot of places was particularly out in like Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and places like that. That back then was pretty much still untouched. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what it looks like today, but I mean, there are a lot of conservation groups out there that are trying to save a lot of that land and save some of the animals from being just herded away and so forth. And they're actually saying that the bison is actually making a comeback now, finally, after all these years. So it's from putting him on endangered species lists so they can people ain't going out there and hunting them. I mean, at one time there were literally millions of buffalo all over the United States, and they said when they used to just gallop through the area, it sounded like just thunder. That's how it sounded. And now there's so few left that they actually had to try to save them by putting them on endangered species lists. And now they're making a comeback. I donate to a lot of places like that. I mean, I'm very big in animal. Besides donating a lot to Civil War, which is my number one thing, but I donate a lot to conservation and animals, and you know um, uh, you know the national parks and so forth, that I donate a couple of times a year, because I want to have that around for the next generation to enjoy.
Right, right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's sad that things like that get destroyed. Speaking of conservation and stuff, there was this area in Madison when I was a kid, my grandfather used to take me to, and and I'll never forget it because I got nipped, okay? But we'd go there to feed the ducks. He'd get this big he'd have this buy this day old bread from the store, and he'd crumple it all up, and he'd have it, and one of the ducks got my finger a little bit, but there it
Yeah,
was like hundreds and hundreds of ducks were there because you'd get surrounded, you know. And today,
Yeah.
I pulled in there once because I had to turn around. Not a single duck in sight,
Yeah.
you know. And that was when I did that. When we had to do that turnaround that day, it was like the middle of summer, so you would expect them to be in the water
Right.
up there. Nope, like nobody goes there to feed them anymore.
Yeah.
The place looked like it turned into like a parking lot to make out, or they park and ride, like leave their park, park their car there, catch the bus, and go to work, and then come back.
Yeah.
And it's sad because that was a much nicer area when I was a kid. The You could even go and picnic there, but you'd have to fend off the ducks when the picnic basket came
Oh
out.
yeah. Yeah.
But that never happened with us. But, you know, my grandpa had a big old Winnebago RV, so everything came, everybody sat in there to eat, stuff like that. But yeah, that place, anytime my grandpa took us there, that place was just flooded with ducks, you know, every single time. Places like that don't exist anymore, you know. And even some of those parks when I was a kid, there was one not too far from my grandma and grandpa's house where the slide, metal slide part, was built into the side of this huge hill, you know. So I mean, you're not at the risk of falling off the slide and getting hurt because you're just gonna, roll down the hill a little bit. But it was just a huge hill that you had to walk up to, and they built the wooden stairs into the hill so that it was easier to walk. But it's gone. It's
Yeah.
no longer there.
Yeah.
They
No.
took the metal slide completely out. But the steps are still there, though, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they used those old railroad ties to make the steps, you know. But the metal slide got totally taken out because they didn't want to maintain it anymore, you know. But when I was a kid, that park used to be crowded. Now it's gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all part of conservation, but I mean, conservation is only one portion of it. I mean, if we don't do something pretty soon with global warming, it's not going to matter how much conservation we do, because I mean, there's going to be a lot of extinctions, massive extinctions in
Well,
this world. I mean,
how
there's
often?
over a million different species that are going to go extinct here pretty soon, including
Well,
one of my favorites, by the way, the polar bear.
they've got those ELEs that they happen all the time that they call them, extinction level events, and,
Yeah.
what was it, to get back on track a little bit to the paranormal, what was that guy, uh, Nostradamus?
Yeah.
Didn't he predict something like that? Global warming?
Yeah, he predicted a lot. He had these predictions he called quatrains.
Quatrains, right.
And
And,
I
and
mean,
it, it,
he predicted a lot of stuff, including Hitler's rise to power and
right.
JFK's assassination, and so many things that when you look at it.
Napoleon?
I mean, he didn't actually say Hitler. He said
It was
Hitler.
Hitler with a Z.
Yeah. So I mean that is so close.
Right.
And
And then he
a lot
called
of
them
people
he
say it's
called them
just
antichrists.
predictions. Yeah. Yeah.
He called them antichrists too.
Right. Right.
Because one of them he predicted was, what was it? The one that they took out, um, you know, uh,
Osama bin Laden.
yeah, because he predicted the one with the turban, and it was in the time of, like sliding doors and,
Yeah.
you know, and then he predicted Napoleon. Yeah, I was always fascinated by him. So, but yeah, you know, it happens. There's nothing. I
I
don't
was
think
reading.
the
I
way
was
things
reading
are
something.
going, not to talk government, but I don't think the way things are going where nobody can agree on anything right now up there
Yeah.
in the house or up on the hill or whatever you want to call it. I don't think anything's going to get done anytime soon.
No.
You know, which is kind of
I was
sad.
reading something here that I really found pretty fascinating. I didn't know this either. I learn stuff every day, literally. But um, there's been like 5 major mass extinctions that have happened, since this Earth has been an Earth. And but one thing that hasn't changed, I was reading about this, the horseshoe crab. The horseshoe crab basically survived all these natural extinctions, including the dinosaurs and every one of them. And now they're in danger because people are using their blood for antibiotics and trying to all kind of biological stuff, and they're they're harvesting them faster than they can reproduce and everything. They said now they're making a comeback now finally, because again, you think of it this way: that little horseshoe crab has remained pretty much unchanged since it was first brought onto this earth,
But
and it's
somehow they
survived
adapt to survive.
everything, only to be maybe taken off from extinction because of our stupidity. You know, that's just crazy. It's just really crazy.
But somehow life, some of those like in Jurassic Park, where they were taking what was it, so that they were all inherently female or something, the dinosaurs,
Yeah,
and then what's his name turns around and says, well, life finds a way, they adapt, and sure enough, the dinosaurs were reproducing on the island. They found a way. You
yeah.
know,
They were asexual basically. They were both. They were considered like both sexes in a way.
well, what wasn't both? You had what, amphibians and reptiles mostly. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
At the time, even the raptors were more a reptile than a bird at that point. Some of them,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's just amazing, how sometimes life finds a way. We watched that. Mark and I both, we talk about this often privately. Um, we got real fascinated by what's called a mockumentary. They made this so-called kind of a documentary thing, but it had an underlying purpose. They were trying to stop the government from running sonar experiments in the ocean because it was killing off the dolphins or something like that, right? So they did this documentary about mermaids, and it was so realistic it wasn't funny. But it's not too far from believable, because why do we really have that webbing between the fingers?
yeah,
And could that have one time been you know bigger and come up further, you know, so that you could be swimming? We can hold our breath. Some of us in good shape, you can hold your breath underwater for quite a long time.
yeah,
You know, my brother was good at that. You know, we almost thought he could breathe underwater sometimes, but it's just one of those things. But it made it so believable. You thought it made it seem possible. You
yeah,
know, because it's like you're not just killing off the dolphins, because you're killing off these mermaids that are swimming along with the dolphins, so that when they cross the Great Divide or whatever it is in the ocean, they get across without getting, because they were going back when Megalodon was still around. So, to avoid the predators, they swimmed with dolphins, you know, and everything they did made sense, you know, but just makes you think if it's actually possible too. I mean, and they came out and admitted at the end of it that it was just all a mockumentary, you know, but ah, yeah, it's impressed.
And what's a mermaid? Basically, it's a mythical beast or a mythical creature that uh, today you might call it a cryptid,
Yeah.
just like the unicorn and the
Well,
Pegasus and all these other mythical beasts,
that
dragon.
mermaids can be traced back to ancient times. Like when you had, different sea captains and stuff seeing, what they described as a mermaid, you know, or, it's all over some of that ancient text.
Yeah.
I've seen it, you know,
Oh yeah.
but then that goes to keeping an open mind and realizing that anything's possible,
Yeah.
you know. And right now our paranormal and cryptids and all of that stuff that falls under the paranormal umbrella, a lot of it out there that hasn't really been proven. A lot of it's just theories anyways, and no theory can be wrong until proven that way.
Right.
So
Just
that's
like when
the
they
way I thought of it.
experienced so-called sea monsters or krakens, you know, big giant things, tentacles that would just pull their ships down and
I
everything.
believe that thing is possible.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the one that what was that one that they just discovered that they thought was extinct, that was like, some kinda giant squid or something like that? Um,
Um, well, I know they found that coelacanth, which was that
right.
fish that was supposed to be extinct for several million years, and they've already found several of them already. Um,
Wow.
so I mean, if they can
Mark
survive,
was
why
here. This is where
why
Mark needed to
can't
be at.
monsters survive? Or Champy in Lake Champlain monster, or Orgopogo, or some of
Yeah,
these other monsters that are all over the globe here.
but they discovered a giant squid, I believe it was. Mark would know if he was here, he would have known the name. But they thought it to be extinct, and then it got discovered because it washed up on the shore, a recently deceased carcass washed up on the shore of, like, Japan or Asia or someplace, and that thing's big enough to be called a kraken practically,
Yeah,
things get huge, and that's why I'm so afraid of the ocean. It's not just the possibility that megalodon could still be out there in the depths somewheres. But just those giant squid or octopus, man, that would scare the hell out of me, you know, because some of those things have teeth even on the suction cup,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
claw-like teeth on those suction cups, and it's like, man, they just scare the hell out of me. They
Oh yeah,
really do.
they're nasty. They're very nasty. They got these what they call giant beaks.
Yeah, yeah,
That,
and the pressure on those, man, I saw somebody, um they had one and they did a test, and it's like, holy shit, what it was able to break with its beak, because they had it in,
oh
like,
yeah.
captivity, and, man, that could snap a bone in a heartbeat. It wouldn't take much, and it doesn't for them, you know? They got more strength to snap a bone than they need.
Well, you got to remember the giant squid was also something that was thought that could not possibly exist because human beings had never seen one because they live at such depths in the ocean that
And
we
we
could
didn't
not
have the
go down.
technology, and
And
we
then
didn't have the technology to go that far down,
right, and
and
then
we still don't have the technology to go down as far as.
we found them. We started to videotape them, and we found out they actually do exist.
Yeah. Well, see, they can put the cameras down there at depths further than people can go today
Yeah,
still, you know, and that technology with those cameras are getting easier and easier for them to build. All they gotta deal with the pressure, you know. People have a tolerance, we can't change our pressure that we can, survive, the pressure of the depths. Because that's the worst thing. Because you can go down too far and you can, like, implode or something, or whatever that is because of the pressure. But we can reinforce the metals and all that, on a camera to make it withstand that and learn as we go. That's going to be the best bet. That or some kind of super submersible that'll be able to withstand that pressure.
I mean, they say that we actually know less about our own oceans than we do outer space because there
Yeah.
are sections of the oceans that we may never find all
And,
the living creatures that are
and
living in our oceans.
and God knows how many um, underwater caverns and caves and, you know, how they intertwine with each other possibly, you know. Who knows what could be living in there too at the
Yeah,
same time.
like we have the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest trench in the Pacific Ocean, and we can't even get anywhere close to being to the bottom of that. And yet
No,
there are living creatures down there that can withstand those pressures in the ocean where it would crush us and crush a
right,
a submersible or a submarine that tried to get down that far.
right. Yeah, and that's why we never, until we get that, to that point, and you can't totally say for certain if something's extinct or not, because you don't know if it just went under to stay under,
Yeah,
to stay from because the numbers are so few and, they don't come up too often to be seen by people, who knows? I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. I mean, we've had so many discoveries there. What isn't there an island or something that every time they go to it, they find some kind of new species of something?
probably Madagascar
Yeah, I think that's it, you know.
off the east
And
coast of Africa.
and I mean that's just the land.
Yeah,
They're still discovering stuff on land. Plants, animals, stuff that they thought didn't exist anymore or was impossible or
yeah.
was extinct. It's amazing. I see it. You see it all the time if you watch the right news channels or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like I say, we know so little about our own Earth that we ought to be exploring our own Earth before we even reach out to space, for that matter. And you're trying to find life on other planets or the moon or Mars or
I
wherever.
was just gonna
But
say
yet,
they probably know more about the moon and Mars than they do about Earth right
yeah,
now.
exactly. And that's why there are so many undiscovered species on Earth. And like you say, they're finding new species all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why
They would
why
be
not
little
can't
insects
like
or little tiny ants or little tiny arachnids or whatever they may be. They're finding them. They're a new species. They got to be cataloged. And
so why can't there be a Bigfoot, and why can't there be the Beast of Bray Road
oh
or
yeah, yeah.
and the other theory on that is why can't it be possibly some kind of dire wolf that adapted,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, it's just a theory. Can't be wrong. They did exist at one time.
Well, just like Bigfoot, they think that Bigfoot initially they thought it might have been a missing link
Yeah,
between apes and
and
humans.
humans. Right,
The Gigantopithecus, I think that's
right.
how they call it. This huge creature. I mean, where does that fit into the evolutionary scale? They don't even know.
Why can't it be some kind of surviving relative of that?
Yeah,
You know?
or a hybrid between us and the ape.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be smart to be able to keep hidden for all these years, you
Yeah,
know, and no one to be able to find any accurate DNA trace or hair sample, no
well,
feces,
carcass.
not even a carcass. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it baffles me, but I anything's possible. I believe it's true. I mean, I've heard some strange things in different places. I was a kid. I was growing up. We spent a lot of time camping. You know, so I've been camping up north in some areas, and you know, yeah, you hear the natural sounds at night. Like the bear. You know, making his noises. And that's it's just a black bear in Wisconsin. But yeah, you do want to stay away. Um, And then, the wolves and the coyotes, you'll hear them, but then there's some sounds I've heard in the past that I was never able to figure out. Asked my dad. I don't know what that was,
Yeah.
you know, but yet more of us heard it, but we never knew what it was. It wasn't bear, but because, after a while you get used to hearing those things and you know what they are. When you grow up in a certain area, or you go camping in an area regularly, you end up knowing what those things are. You know, you even get too far north, you could run into moose, or caribou,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, the further north you go, the more chances you got to run into the black bear too, or a cougar, or a bobcat or the lynx. All of them are native to Wisconsin. You know, and I know what they all sound like because I've taken time out to do. I've spent a lot of time at the zoo growing up, but that's not the point. Um, there's a place called the Mackenzie Center. It's a wildlife uh, preservation. They find an animal that gets caught in a trap or something like that. They rescue it, and if it wouldn't be able to survive on its own in the wild, they keep it as part of this learning center type thing that you can go to for free. Like they had an eagle where somebody shot it had its wing shot off, so it can't fly anymore. So they house it there and take care of it. You know, or a fox. It was like a red fox that got caught in a hunter's trap and got its leg cut off. So it only had 3 legs. So they didn't really. So they had anyway. Up there, they had a cougar, a bobcat, and a lynx, and all these animals are all native to Wisconsin. And I was sitting on a bench, and right behind me was the cougar in the cage. Maybe 2 feet away at the most, and that thing started purring, and it was the coolest thing I ever heard because it was so loud and so deep, you know. And then when that thing meowed, you would know the difference between a house cat and a cougar for sure.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was really, really cool. I mean, you get to learn and because these animals seem happy, but you get to learn and they make their noises, you learn. And I spent a lot of time there because I took my kids there, you know, quite a bit too.
But that
And
kind of reminds me of a thing that we all did together. Not this last year we went to that Valley of the Kings Tiger
oh,
Sanctuary.
love that place. Oh God, did I
That
love that
cooler
place.
what? I mean, I was able to come up as close as a foot away from a wild tiger. You'll never get that close in any zoo.
And those
And
are
this thing was
beautiful.
actually Jill Carnegie. I was saying, well, what's he going? What's he doing that for? She says he's vocalizing. He's trying to talk with you. He's trying to show affection to you. And I go, wow, I've never had a tiger ever try to talk to me before. And I mean, the amazing animals and what they've done there throughout the years is just an amazing place. It's a
Yeah,
great place. Sharon,
that
Wisconsin.
that place was just yeah, that was something else. I mean, to go back and walk around that area and you see the bears, and then all of a sudden, wow, there's a grizzly bear back there too, you know.
Yeah,
And boy, was he getting kind of playful, because he was getting attention because we were standing there looking at him, taking pictures and stuff. That was cool. And then I got those wolves going. I love that. My
oh yeah,
favorite is
I remember
my
that.
favorite my favorite is always being around wolves like that, and I just feel like sometimes I got a special connection with any canine, and that was, like, really cool. We're just so vocal that night.
Yeah, before you all came up, before you, Mark, and your wife came up, we already had taken the tour because you came a little bit later, and
Right.
I got the wolf started myself. I went, oh, and they
Yeah.
threw their head back and they were just howling. I said, that was so cool to be no more than 6 feet away from a wild animal in just in this native call, just howling up like they do, just howling to the moon, so
Oh,
to
yeah.
speak. It's just so crazy.
It's music to my ears.
Yeah.
You know, I uh I get my dog going all the time because my dog is a purebred Siberian Husky, so she'll
Oh yeah.
get vocal too. So
My
yeah,
brother
I'll do
had
that
one.
little howl thing just to get her howling, and yeah, it's fun. But when you get a pack of them going like that, that's just amazing. That's like music to my ears.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Center's got a pack of wolves that were pretty much confiscated as, from drug houses or whatever, you know, um, one's a hybrid, the rest of them are actual wolves, and they're like, because they got this little thing, can you spot the difference, which one's the hybrid, you know? And you really can't tell unless you
Yeah.
look real close, or dogs real well enough to know that hybrid. Because they didn't mix it with a husky. They mixed it with a shepherd.
Yeah.
So it was like a wolf shepherd mix. But,
See, we
these
got a pretty big zoo down here called the Brookfield Zoo in Brookfield, Illinois. But I tell you, they have a wolf enclosure. They call it Wolf Woods. So they got like trees and everything in there, and they got some places for them to go in and out. But I tell you, you're lucky to even see one because they're hiding in the woods. I mean, when I went to this tiger sanctuary, they are right out in the open. They came right up to the fence. You can get them howling. You can interact with them. You can't do that at a zoo like that.
well, that those wolves are sure watching you when you walk through. You can bet on it. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, here's the most dangerous thing. You're out in the woods, all right, and you see one wolf, one single wolf in front of you. What do you do? I'm gonna stand.
there's
I'm
going to be more than one. You know there's going to be
I'm
a
gonna
pack.
stand completely still because I'm surrounded,
Yeah, yeah. There's going
you
to be
know.
a pack of them.
Oh, yeah. You just got a scout in front of you, and while you're looking at him, you're getting surrounded if you
Yeah,
weren't surrounded before you noticed him, because they're gonna notice you long before you notice them,
yeah,
you know. And you can bet if you're walking through a place like that and you didn't see any wolves, I bet you they saw you, though.
yeah.
You can bet on it.
And it's most likely either the alpha male or the alpha female that checked you out first.
You know? You have, that's like when you own a husky, and especially if it's a purebred husky, and it doesn't matter if it's a Siberian husky or a Malamute husky, you are going to have trouble if you don't become the alpha male.
Yeah,
And there are literally sometimes only two ways to do that. You either stare that dog down until it squeals, and you'll know it because it'll squeal and then it'll back down like a submission type move of a canine, you know, or you literally bite its ear till it squeals. You got to make it hurt. I know it sounds cruel, but if you don't become alpha male, that dog's going to rule you and the house, you know,
yeah,
and it might even tear up the thing, and you're going to have a hell of a time training it because they are the most stubborn breed of dog there is. So they take a lot of patience as well to train them. But the first thing you got to do is become alpha male because they are a pack dog.
yeah.
You know.
See, my brother had a full bred pedigree Siberian Husky male.
Mhm.
Beautiful animal, beautiful blue eyes. I mean, this dog
Ice
was
blue eyes they
huge,
have.
huge. The thing I found really kind of strange about Huskies is they hardly ever bark.
Nope, they don't.
I mean, the only way I could get that dog to bark was I roughhoused him a little bit, and
Yep.
then he would actually jump up in the air and he would chest butt me with his chest to my chest, and he nearly knocked me over. That's how strong this dog
Oh, I
was.
know how strong they are. I've raised huskies most of my life, and Joy, she's a female Siberian husky, and she don't bark unless somebody comes too close to her yard that she don't like, walking a dog that she don't like, then she'll start barking kind of viciously, like. Um, but otherwise, we can't get her to bark too much unless you've got food and she wants some.
Yeah,
There's certain triggers that'll set her off, but otherwise, she will stay quiet or she'll start going like verbally vocalizing, like going roar, 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 which isn't barking, it's her way of talking.
yeah,
You
yeah,
it's not like a howl. It's not like, and I had a husky that did that every time he yawned. He'd yawn and he'd go, "Roar, roar, 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 roar," like that. Every time he yawned, he did that. It was so cute. You know, Too bad there was no internet back then. I'd have
yeah.
had or video cameras and stuff. I would have had some video.
I'll send you a couple of pictures of my brother's dog. I mean, it was such a pretty dog when it was a youngster, and then when he grew up, I tell you, the first time he went out, and the first time he experienced snow, oh, he just went bananas. The instinctiveness of an animal who loves to be in the snow. That thing was rolling around the snow, galloping across the yard, throwing snow up in the air. I mean, he was just in seventh heaven.
You know, and I think sometimes husky owners take get a bad rap sometimes because people they have the misconception, they look at the dog right away and they think wolf,
Yeah,
you know? And a husky is the type of dog that makes the worst guard dog in the world, you know? They'll lay on their backs if a stranger walks in, and it's like, "You give me a belly rub, and I'll show you all the where all the valuables are,"
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? They're the most friendly breed there is. Second, when it comes to snow, they don't get just because it's cold outside doesn't mean that they are cold.
no, no,
These dogs can withstand temperatures of up to 65 below zero. They have triple layer thick coats. That's why they are constantly shedding
yeah,
and a nightmare to deal with. You got to have a lot of patience and a lot of time to own a husky. It's not uh, something. They're high maintenance. That's the best way I can put it. They're a high maintenance breed, but I love them. I think they're the greatest and the most entertaining breed in the world sometimes. Because of the way when they get vocal, sometimes it's almost you can hear words out of their mouth. You know, and it gets funny. Um, they have a sense of humor. They have an attitude. They have a personality, and they are a stubborn breed. They're hard to train.
yeah,
But think about this though. If you can hear a husky's howl up to 10 miles away, okay, how far do you think you can hear a wolf's howl?
yeah,
Which is a
yeah,
bigger dog by about 100 pounds difference between the two breeds. You
yeah,
know, Bet you can hear that the wolf probably about 20 miles. When they howl
yeah,
because they're a much bigger dog, they can get much louder with a much bigger range, probably. I would imagine. I don't. I never did look that one up, but I did find the fact about the husky that you can hear a husky's howl up to 10 miles away, and I thought that was interesting.
yeah.
Oh, she howls all the time. She
Well,
likes it.
that's like these shows you see on TV, like Finding Bigfoot, and when they're trying to track Bigfoot, and they're going oh like that, and they're trying to make the sounds, and all of a sudden you hear the coyotes and the wolves in the background.
Is that the
Ooh.
one with uh, uh, the guy named Bobo in it?
Yeah, Bobo.
Oh, yeah. I think that I
Bobo
don't
had
care what
that
people
funny
think out
neighbor.
there. I think that show's a joke. I
Yeah,
mean, oh, I'm gonna put out a cupcake because if I eat it, Bigfoot's gonna eat it, or, I mean, some of the things that they've tried to do are totally off the wall stupid, but then a few others I thought, "Hmm, I hey, I might have to keep that in mind if I ever go hunting for Bigfoot," you know? But otherwise, sometimes I think that show's a joke because it's all well, most of them I think are a joke sometimes because 'cause they're off for ratings, you know? The
yeah,
ones I like are the documentary well, the ones where I'd see, like, you or, Ken Gerhard on, where they'd go to, like, because they go to him because he's a cryptozoologist, they go to you because you're, like, a ghost expert or, you know, because 'cause you've been doing this as long as you have or you're the plane crash expert, and they're talking, like Flight 191 or whatever, you know? Those are the shows that I watch the most,
yeah,
even the paranormal ones that are like that, you know? I don't like some of those ones that are just off for ratings,
yeah,
but I do like Josh Gates a lot,
yeah.
and
He is good. He's good.
I do watch that one, Finding Bigfoot, for entertainment
I,
purposes.
I actually I actually met him in person in Chicago years ago. Got me a
Josh
selfie with
Gates?
him up there.
Josh Gates?
Yeah, Josh Gates. Yeah, he was nice. I've met a lot of the other ones. I've met John Zaffis.
I've
Uh,
got his autograph. I've got
this,
Josh Gates' autograph on a picture on my wall here, and I've got an autograph on a compass, okay? Because we went to see him in Milwaukee last year, I think it was. I didn't get to actually physically meet him,
yeah,
unfortunately. But man, watching him live in person on stage was a lot different than watching his shows.
oh yeah,
And and I bet I'm not wrong about the type of guy he is, you know? I think he I think he's one of these guys, yes, he's famous, but I think at the same time, I think this guy's pretty humble if you met him in person, a very down to earth kinda humble dude, you know? It's kind of the vibe I got from him when he was on stage, and
yeah,
he actually started answering questions at the end and calling on different people in the audience and stuff when they raised their hands, and I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed by him, so
yeah. Well, if you ever make it down to my neck of the woods here, I'll show you my what I call my wall of fame with
yeah,
me all these
yeah,
different.
you're the one that got me started on getting autographs and collecting pictures so I can make one when we move, so I just
Yeah,
need more wall space. Right now, it's mostly NASCAR.
I mean, I actually met last year. Um, I don't know his real name offhand; it just escapes me. But if you ever saw the movie Poltergeist, not Carol Ann, but Robbie, her older brother. I actually
Oh,
met him in person at a I'm going to call it a Paracon, but it was
yeah,
kind of
I
like
don't know the guy's name, but I know the movie very well, so yeah, he was a kid then, so he's probably, like, an adult now if he's still
oh yeah,
around.
I saw him. I got a picture of me and him. We posed for a selfie, and I got a picture of him and Carol Ann and the dog that was in the movie. Um,
Oh, so that was when she was still alive?
oh yeah, he's still alive. Oh
No,
yeah.
I'm talking about Carol Ann,
Oh no, Carol Ann was gone at that point. No, she was gone.
'cause
This was just
I was
last
about to
year.
say she died of something that they could have prevented, but
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately,
It
it was
was
a sad thing.
something stupid. Yeah. And then I met that same conference. I met two people that appeared in the motion picture film Fright Night
Old film.
about the vampires. Really good vampire movie. And the guy he turned into a vampire, and Brewster, his his friend, they were both at the same conference. I got a picture with both of them, and I got their celebrity picture that they autographed for me too. And I got a few others here that I got autographed from other people. John Zaffis, who's a demonologist, has been on a lot of different shows, and you know, my favorite on my wall to this day still is me and Dan Aykroyd.
Lucky you.
That was still my favorite.
You are one lucky stiff.
Yeah.
I would love to meet Aykroyd. I I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live, the original Saturday Night Live, by
Oh yeah.
the way, people, you know, and Dan Aykroyd was one of the not so ready for prime time players, as they were called
Right.
in the 70s, in the 60s when that started. So yeah, yeah, I was a big Dan Aykroyd fan, and he's a paranormal person too.
Oh, absolutely.
He gets into the paranormal stuff, from what I understand.
Yeah. He the reason I met him, I was going to be on a show that he was going to be a part of called Way Out. And it was not just ghosts, it was ghosts, hauntings, poltergeist, Bigfoot, UFOs, lake monsters, everything way out. Okay.
Yeah,
And I was going to be the pilot show on ghosts. And they shot like 12 episodes, and then they decided to scrap the whole idea, so it never made it on the air. But before I left, I said, "Can I get a picture of me and Dan?" He goes, "Oh, well, absolutely." So I got that picture, which is still hanging on the wall in full color. And it's amazing some of the people that I've met, throughout the course of my time. Some of them are not even here anymore. The only one that I really wanted to meet and never got a chance to meet was Hans Holzer.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it happens. I hate that sometimes. I I've I've I started making a list after your little telling me about your wall of fame way back when we first started talking. Um, I when I was a kid, I met Adam Rich from Eight Is Enough. He was the youngest kid out of the eight. He recently passed away too, unfortunately. Um, But when I was a kid, I'd get taken to a car show, and he was there, and I got my picture taken with him, and I couldn't find that picture today. And it's like, God, I wish I would have done that, because I was just a kid too, you know. But he
yeah,
was at a car show, and the car show had like the Batmobile, and I'm talking the original Adam West, Batmobile.
yeah,
You know, the General Lee was there, and then he was like the guest star of the car show was Adam West, and or not Adam West. Um, Adam Rich from Eight Is Enough was there, and I think one of the actresses was there too that day from Eight Is Enough that played his sister. But it was a big thing when I was a kid to go to car shows like
yeah,
that. And back when I was a kid, they had a lot of celebrities at those car shows back in the day. I mean, I remember they even had the one, and I didn't get to go to that one, but they had the one where um, they had the guy that actually designed that Batmobile and the Munsters vehicle and the Adams fan, all these different. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was very famous, and he was there signing autographs and stuff. Damn, I'm not missing those chances anymore. you know, because these people they end up going too fast sometimes, and I didn't get a chance to meet. Now we go back to our paranormal world, and we can talk about Beast of Bray Road all we want, but when we talk about the Beast of Bray Road, we kind of got to talk about the woman that made it famous. her writings and her research initially, and that's Linda Godfrey, you know.
Right.
And unfortunately, I never got a chance to meet that woman. And she was the one that got us kind of started with Beast of Bray Road just by reading her book, you know.
Yeah,
And
I met her a couple times at conferences, and I bought a couple of her books. I got them autographed. So,
I
you know,
started too late to get
yeah,
to know her. So we started doing the paranormal thing too late to actually get to know her because by the time we started, her health wasn't that great anymore. So she was doing less and less as time went on.
mhm.
So, and that was unfortunate because I would have loved to had her on our show, talk about the Beast of Bray Road and then the documentary her and her son did on the Wildcat Mountain place here in Wisconsin, where that black cat is supposed to be seen all the time. Supposedly, there's a leopard-like creature not too far from an area called um, damn it, now I can't even think of the name of the town that's right there that I know. Hillsboro, not too far from Hillsboro, Wisconsin. And there's this park. I think it's called Big Mountain State Park or Big Cat Mountain State Park or something. And Linda Godfrey and her son did a documentary on it, and people have been seeing what they say is a black panther-like cat roaming around or in their backyard or whatever. And the DNR is saying it's not a cougar with a black thing because it's not possible. It doesn't exist. You're seeing an oversized house cat, maybe. That's what people. It's not a house cat. And they say, well, maybe you're seeing, this. No, it's not that. And they've showed some pretty convincing video that footage that some of these witnesses have gotten on from like trail cams or whatever. And to me personally, it looks like it could be maybe a black mountain lion or something, but it was all black. There was no doubt about that, and it was about that size of a cougar or mountain lion, same creature, just depends on where you are in the world. But, and it could have maybe a leopard escaped from a zoo, a local zoo or something, but who knows? They say leopards don't exist either, but they do, you know. I don't
Yeah, there
know.
was a documentary on this cable channel. Forget what it was called right offhand, but uh, the show was called Strange Evidence, and they actually had a what looked like a black panther or a
Right.
cougar or something, but it was in England, and they
Yeah, that
England
that
didn't
story
have
that story has been dating back for years, decades, hundred centuries. I mean, yeah, I think I saw that, because they talked
they
about the
don't have
history of
any
how
black
far that goes
panthers, and
back.
they've all been killed off a long time ago. So how did this thing get over there? And they got video documentation of this,
No,
and pretty
you know,
weird.
it looks pretty real. I mean, some of this
Yeah,
doesn't look like the footage has been doctored in any way,
yeah.
and that's the same thing with the one that's here in Wisconsin. But yet, oh, there's no documented case of a cougar ever having that whatever they call that opposite of the albinoism. They don't carry the genes for that. What's to say that it hasn't happened recently? You know,
Yeah.
Goes back to the theory that anything's possible. It's a feline. You know, how many different house cats do you think breeds of house cats will come out just black? There's quite a few of them. I've seen quite a few different, just all different. Oh, you know, oh, this is Tabby, but he's black. Or, this kind I've seen them that way. What's to say a cougar can't be born that way? You know?
Never
That's,
know.
I mean, that's what Linda Godfrey and her son were trying to find out in that documentary. And I want to go out to that area and try to find some of those people to talk to, or go to a couple of those areas and just kind of scope it out with a video camera and see if we can't spot something.
Yeah.
Because I scoped out the park, there's a lot of areas where you can get a very high pointed, a really high view advantage of the woods that are in that area, immediate area. Because there's like a trail and it's got like the metal rails around it on a cement path, you know, and you could set up there at any given point with a camera on a tripod to overlook in that area in the woods to see if you catch anything, you know. Because my guess is if, that park's active with people, the thing's going to stay down into the woods, you know.
Are they mostly nocturnal, or they come out there in the day?
They've been spotted all hours, crossing the road in people's backyards, from Hillsboro to I can't remember the other. There's two other towns around that area that it's been spotted in. 2 years ago during the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference, that's when Linda Godfrey and her son released their documentary on that area. So, and it got me really curious because, when it comes to paranormal, I'm more fascinated with, I'm fascinated with it all, but the cryptid part really fascinates me the most. Looking into some of these cryptids. So,
Yeah.
but I believe some of them are just like the one that they call bozo. There's one that's called bozo, Bozho or something like that, or Bho. Anyway, it's called bozo. It's in Lake Mendota, which is in Madison, and it's been spotted usually right around the Picnic Point area. And Picnic Point area is basically um, university's got this like wooded area that they study, not too far from the university hospital. But it's like a public venue where you can go through and walk the trails. Um, you just got to be more careful than most places because you can't walk on the grass here, or there's signs posted, so you got to be careful. But anyway, we get down to the one where we can actually see Lake Mendota, and that's the point that you could people say that they see the bozo. And what I think people are seeing is a lake sturgeon. You know, Lake Mendota is one of the deepest lakes, and they've been sighted in there anyways. And I think people are just because, if I'm not mistaken, a sturgeon kind of looks a little prehistoric
Yeah.
in a way when it surfaces, when the back of it surfaces. And that's exactly what some of the people were describing, but on a pretty big scale. Well, it depends. This is Madison, that's college, a lot of drinking going on. You know, eyes could be playing tricks with somebody. I think it's a lake sturgeon. I really do. I think it's just a big lake sturgeon. I mean, Lake Mendota is the deepest and the biggest lake in the Madison area. So, and that's the one that they keep seeing it in.
Hmm.
So, I haven't got proof yet, but if I was a fisherman, I'd go out there to see if I could catch a pretty big lake sturgeon and see, you know, if they are out there. but I don't fish. I never was, unfortunately. Watch those shows too. That's why I think it's a lake sturgeon because they are in there, according to what was it? Where was I? Oh, back to that place. Um, Mackenzie Center. They got these like old log cabin houses, kind of showing you what it was like, how they what a mill, like what a lumber mill looked like back in the day, and so on and so forth back there. And these are all these log cabins, and inside they've got them so that you can learn about the native animals to Wisconsin, including the fish. And they showed a lake sturgeon in there and said that it can be found in Lake Mendota, and they named off several lakes around the area, and that was one of the lakes that could be found in. So I know they're in there, but can they get big enough to fool somebody into thinking that? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, if I was a fisherman, I'd go out and find out though, but I'm not. I've seen some pretty big fish in those lakes, though.
Really?
You know, my dad, when I was a kid, my dad used to take us out on a boat all the time, and in Lake Monona, the carp get huge. I mean, massive. And they come flying at water. And I'll never forget the one time. I I, I swear it was my brother. We were in the boat, and the fish came flying up out of the water, and it actually hit him before landing in the boat.
Really?
Yeah, and he screamed like a little bitch because he had his back turned. He didn't see it coming, so it hit him in the back. You know, and my dad and I had our backs turned on my brother because we were looking out at the water, and he was behind us. And my dad's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, these things like to jump out of the water a lot around here." I'm like, damn, giant goldfish, ugly fucking things. Can you even eat those things? Do people even eat carp?
Do I believe in what?
Do people even eat carp?
Oh no, I've never heard of anybody eating carp.
Yeah, I thought so. They were like just one big nasty fish.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, usually they catch and release or something, if anything, if they get something like that. I
Yeah,
mean, I've heard. I mean, I'm not prejudiced person, but I heard that black people like them.
I don't know. I
That's
I
what
don't
I've
know.
heard, and I don't know if it's true or not.
It's possible they got some way of cooking them up. Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But you go and sit on that path long enough right around that Lake Monona, and you'll see them suckers flying up and out of that water every now and then around there, and they are big. But I was never much of a fisherman. My dad was, but not me. I had a problem with it. But then I had a problem with a lot of things when it came to fish. Mm, That was because of an accident that happened. But I suppose we should go off the air. No Mark. We've been on longer than an hour. Next week we've got ghost taxi tours, or what was it? Let me get my schedule here. Haunted taxi tours are going to be on next Friday night. So, yeah, and shout out to Steve from Haunted Taxi Tours. Hope you're doing well and everything went well. See you next Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
Good night.
Tell Mark I missed him.
Yeah, we all missed Mark. So he probably is steaming because he had to work late. So till next week, stay safe, have fun. Oh, and don't forget. Oh, I almost forgot this. Next Thursday, you can all see me on what was that? Paranormal Talk through the Things Network. Paranormal Talk through the Things Network next Thursday. I'll be on as a guest. So stay safe and remember, anything's possible.